Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track by an act named Annie Yash titled Helen. And if we switch over to here, this is off of the Pier Wheel album. 5 tracks, we're going to be listening to the first of these from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, putting it back to the start. Boom. Okay, nice, tight. Interesting drum groove there. Some keys. Unusual. Is that a synth or an electric keyboard? Really unsettling melody there. Those softened guitar parts. And bombastic bass tone. What I like about this track is how there's individual components that may not seem to fit together at face value, but when you hear them as a whole in their full context, it's a lot better. You know, it makes sense. It's gorgeous, actually. It's really pretty music. Tonally complex. Some interesting dissonances there, but it makes me more intrigued.
Inside, freaking out, soul is lost in undeniable beast who is here, sweet and smiley, sleeps away, never coming back.
I love the way that the vocals are processed as well. It's fantastic. That heavy reverb chain on the end there, tail just wisps away. Her tone of voice, the way she delivers herself is confident, very tonally authentic. It's great. Breaths on either side.
Father, help, Helen is dying. Father, help, Helen is dying.
Helen is dying. My goodness. Great to pick up the pace for these snare drums and these strummed guitar parts. I wonder how many instruments they have in this arrangement. I'd say it would be quite stunning to check that out. And this really kind of quirky guitar solo on top of the vocal, the ringtone. Gotta be honest, that cascading major tone shifting down into the ether is phenomenal. I'd say this is one of the most harmonically complex pieces of music I've reviewed all year, but I enjoy how well thought out it is at the same time, and how well it fits into this form factor. Spectacular vocals there, that head voice is beautiful.
Give me a place to be. I need the magic key. No one will find me there. Let's play the truth or dare. Even then I fall asleep, I hear one slip down, telling me it's all wrong, it's time to turn around.
There's just so much attention to detail with the way these vocals surround you, first on the left and then on the right, and then both at the same time. It's wonderful with the bits of distortion on their right side as well as a texture shift.
Then I sit alone and silent, cold late night. I can hear the voice that calling me the other side. Father, help. Helen is dying. Father, help. Helen is dead.
Wow. This is the conclusion of my review of Helen, a track by Annie Yash off of the Pure Will EP. It's safe to say I'm very impressed by this. I think that we've got someone who has got all the boxes ticked, but we're going to do this conclusion now, just kind of break it down and figure out what's going where and with what. I think, first of all, what do I think this track is about? You know, I think it's about someone who is maybe losing sense of who they used to be. The father help, you know, Helen is dead. Maybe that was themselves, or, you know, like they're calling out to save themselves. But also there's another part where they sort of talk about like people slipping away and everything like that and losing herself. And like the laughing and everything like that kind of that you had giggling near the last chorus kind of makes me wonder whether or not this person is sort of like having two different perspectives on themselves and trying to sort of figure out which side to go away from. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. The music kind of makes me think that someone's sort of losing their sanity a little bit. Like the old person is dying and they've become this new one. That's my take on it. The vocals from Annie Yash are phenomenal. She has her own tone, her own way of displaying and, you know, communicating with the audience. It was really engaging and intriguing and interesting to listen to. Comfortable in her head and chest voice, shows great vocal technique there. Not overextending herself, but she doesn't need to. It wouldn't have been smart to do that. She could clearly sing, like again, that ascension into that high chest voice in the latter half there. Beautiful high notes there. But her presence in the mix is there regardless of where she is. I don't think you should be sleeping on Annie Yash. They're a great musician, they're a great singer. The storytelling is minimalist, I think, to make allowances for the rest of the accompaniment and the story they want to tell through that backing performance, that aesthetic, that environment that they're attempting to create with the story, which I also have a lot of respect for. I think it's great when musicians can take a step back and go, hey, you know, I think that maybe it's better if I don't try and be the center of attention all the time. So well done to Annie Yash for letting the other instruments speak for themselves and to help her to get where she needs to be. Fantastic chemistry there. Her attitude there, the way she displayed herself, was someone who was very confident in themselves as a performer, as a musician, as a storyteller. And those little glides and little glides with, you know, those kind of like, those glides are just fantastic there. These little bits of nuance and perfection that I really appreciate within this track, which borderlines melancholic, but also I think there's a little bit of sort of like sadism or masochism in there or something like that. That's the kind of tones and vibes I got from it. I think that the track itself at 4 minutes is wonderfully textured. I think that there's a lot going on in there, from the drum parts to the guitar bass, key parts, you know, other features and little fushy bits and pads and etc. You know, I really think that we've got someone here who not only can tell a story and can sing it, but can also string together a really compelling backing to that. There was a lot of variation on the percussion. You know, lots of different hi-hat grooves and mostly hi-hat grooves. There was some 16th note runs, etc. But we also stripped it back a little bit to make room for other parts. There are various ways of expressing yourself with the guitar chords or the arpeggios or different extensions there. The bass line itself, when it did come in, was not the whole time, but it was meaningful when it did, and explored sort of, I think, supported the root notes and provided a foundation for the rest to go on without needing it to sort of be too much. I think that it was great to have it when it came in, but it also, when it was absent, things floated in the mix kind of nicely. A little bit quirkily, a little bit strangely, but that's okay. Again, the keys, that intro motif coming in with the vocals later on, and sort of stepping in and out occasionally alongside the synth lead and pad parts. It's great, really compelling. It had a sense of trepidation there, a sense of unease, a twisted nature to it that I think made sense with the story and with the way that we were singing. I think it was a very mature take on it. There was not a note out of place. There was enough change in the various chord progressions of bass lines and drum grooves and everything like that throughout to be able to, you know, satisfy, I think, even the most dopamine deprived people. Like some people really need to be attended to when they listen to music. If they don't have enough change, they start to become bored or lose interest. I don't think they will here. I think that there's a lot to keep people entertained with this, especially if they're into this kind of music, you know. But I don't think it was too much adjustment to the point where it became a detriment or alienating. We kept a fine balance there with a sense of musicality whilst also trying to discern and deliver the vibe, quote unquote, that we wanted from the vocals again in the story. So that was great. Everything was nice, cohesive there, and at 4 minutes with a solo section there, various sort of interlude parts, verses and chorus, etc. There was just so much there to support what the listener wanted here. I'm really proud of what Annie Yash has managed to do there in that regard there. And finally, the recording, mixing, and mastering. The production side of things was fantastic. Annie's vocals were recorded very well. It had that kind of indie alt rock kind of vibe to it, which I appreciate. I think that was great there. There was some interesting reverb tails and little distortion effects on some of the tracks, some of the takes, which kind of slid it up against what she's doing with the cleaner stuff, and that was fine. Different perspectives going up against each other, especially near the end. Ultimately, I've got no complaints about the vocals and how they were EQ'd and filtered. The guitars were nice and wide on the sides with some lead parts coming in the center later on. The drums were nicely panned and filtered, you know, the bit of side chaining with the kicks to the bass, but not too much that it became obnoxious or off-putting. You know, it sounded nice and organic like a live performance. The synths and everything else, the key parts, they floated on top. Surrounded the stereo field. The song was nice and wide in the stereo field. There were no weird resonances in the frequency spectrum, and it was nice and loud with that pumping with dynamic range included. You know, there were changes in the perceived loudness and energy levels and stuff like that, which I think is really important. Even if it's 4 minutes, that's still quite long for some people. So you need that adjustment. We nailed that here. Ultimately, this is pretty much a flawless, positive review for me. I'm really stoked with it. I've got nothing to complain about. I wish Annie Yash the best of luck in future with the musical endeavors, because this is my review of Helen, a track by Annie Yash off of the Pair Wheel album. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show another some love via the various social medias and the Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.